Welcome back to Retro FC. In this video, we're diving into another legendary album, this time the Merlin's Premier League 96 sticker collection. We will be spotlighting a random foreign player from every team in the album. This was the winning choice in our recent viewer poll, so thank you for helping us shape the content. Let's see who we uncover from this classic collection. So without further delay, I'm Alan, the current voice of the channel, and here is today's episode. What happened to a random foreign player from every team in Merlin's Premier League 96? Dutch midfielder Glenn Helder was the final signing made by George Graham during his tenure as Arsenal manager. Signing in February 1995 from Arnhem, he played regularly during the 1995-96 season, but after the appointment of Arsene Wenger in the summer of 1996, he was deemed surplus to requirements and was subsequently loaned out to Benfica. Upon returning a year later, the club had moved on with fellow Dutch compatriot Mark Overmars, meaning his career at Highbury was over. Bizarrely, Helder would only made a further 28 league appearances over the remaining 13 years of his career, which was scattered around playing for clubs in Hungary, China and the Netherlands, most notably with NEC Breda. Since retirement, Helder has kept himself busy working as a professional poker player, a musician, and more notably a stand-up comedian. So I may warn you, some of the players in this video won't be as unknown as the previous video. However, Savo Milosevic is on that periphery of being both famous at his club, but maybe not so much amongst other fans. The Serbian striker joined Villa from Partizan Belgrade in 1995 and formed an effective partnership with Dwight Yorke, which yielded 29 league goals between them, with Milosevic raking in 12 of those. Despite scoring in Villa's League Cup final win at Wembley in 1996 and notching 33 goals over 3 seasons, he was a degree of mild frustration for some Villa fans who gave him the nickname Milosevic. He went on to spend the next 9 years of his career in Spain and Italy with Parma, Real Zaragoza, Celta Vigo, Espanyol and Osasuna, before retiring in 2008 with Russian side Rubin Kazan. He was previously the manager of the Bosnian national team, but is now in the hot seat at former club Partizan Belgrade. Norwegian midfielder Lars Bohanan joined Rovers from Nottingham Forest during the summer of 1995. He instantly became a regular for the then reigning Premier League champions, even notching up a brace in a 7-0 thrashing of his former team in his first season. He would remain in the top flight when he signed for Derby County in 1998, having fallen out of contention with new Rovers manager Ole Hardson. He stayed at Pride Park until joining Danish club Lyngby in 2001. He retired in 2005 whilst with Vålerenga, where he was also working as the club's assistant manager. Since 2012, he has managed a host of Norwegian clubs and is currently employed by second division side FK Jerv. Dutch Surinamese striker Fabian arrived at Bolton Wanderers in 1994, instantly becoming a hit at Burnden Park and scoring twice in the Trotters Division 1 playoff final win over Reading, which culminated in their first promotion to the Premier League. His only season in the top flight was somewhat less impactful, as he only found the net 3 times in 27 appearances, as he spent most of the season as backup to John McGinlay and Nathan Blake. In 1996, he joined Spanish side Osasuna, before returning to England with West Brom in 1998. His spell at the Hawthorns only yielded 8 goals in over 60 league games, and he departed English football for good in 2000. He returned to the Netherlands and retired with NEC Breda in 2004, and now resides in Belgium, where he works as a property investor. Russian goalkeeper Dmytro was the first player from his country to appear in the Premier League when he joined Chelsea in 1992 from CSKA. Famous for his sweatpants and mullet haircut, he played in Chelsea's FA Cup final defeat in 1994. He remained as the club's first-choice goalkeeper until the end of the 95-96 season. However, he continued at Stamford Bridge until 1999, but spent his final 3 years as understudy to the likes of Frode Grodus and Ed de Hoy. For a period, he even dropped down to third-choice keeper, behind long-term colleague Kevin Hitchcock. In 1999, he joined Celtic, but injury problems limited him to only 8 league appearances over 3 years. He retired in 2004 following a stint with non-league club Hornchurch, and following the end of his career decided to permanently settle in England. He has since worked as a goalkeeping coach for Luton Town, Stevenage and Hemel Hempstead Town. Now, if one day you find yourself in a pub quiz and up pops the question, who was the first Brazilian ever to play in the Premier League? Then your answer should be Coventry City's Marcus Isias. The striker was already a seasoned veteran by the time he arrived at Highfield Road from Benfica in 1995. He had been playing in Portugal since 1987, but would find the transition into English football an uphill struggle. He quickly found himself out of favour when Gordon Strachan took over as manager and refused to leave the club when attempted to pay off his contract. He played only 11 times over 2 seasons, scoring twice before returning to Portugal in 1997. He retired in 2001 back in his native land with Cabo Friends. He later played beach football and even represented Portugal internationally before returning home to Brazil, where he works as a youth team coach for Cabo Frio. Nigerian striker Daniel Amokachi signed for Everton for £3 million in 1994. He scored 2 goals in the FA Cup semi-final after substituting himself into the game, whilst Paul Rideout was receiving treatment despite manager Joe Royle only asking him to warm up. He would win the cup with the Toffees and played in the final against Manchester United. Despite promising spells, he failed to regularly dislodge Rideout and Duncan Ferguson as the club's main strikers, and would be sold to Turkish side Besiktas at the end of the 95-96 season. His career was over before he turned 30, with injury issues seeing him fail multiple medicals with the likes of 1860 Munich, Tranmere and Colorado Rapids. In 2002, 2 years after he was last contracted to a club, he announced his retirement. Since 2006, he has worked as a manager and coach in Nigerian football and had a spell as interim national team manager between 2014 and 2015. He is currently employed as the ambassador for the Nigeria national team. South African striker Phil Masinga joined Leeds in 1994. He had scored an eye-watering 98 goals in 108 appearances for his previous club in the South African League, but his time at Elland Road was overshadowed by the performances of fellow forward and African compatriot Tony Yeboah. Masinga would only scored 5 times in 33 league appearances that also saw him struggle to break into the team ahead of Rod Wallace and Brian Deane. In 1996, he signed for Swiss club St. Gallen, and later had spells in Italy with Salernitana and Bari. He retired in 2002 with Dubai-based team Al Wahda. He later had a brief spell as manager of South African side PJ Stars, but on January 13, 2019, Masinga sadly passed away after a short battle with cancer. Another Norwegian international making moves in the Premier League in the 90s was fullback Stig Inge Bjørnebye. Joining Liverpool in 1992, he initially struggled to maintain form in his first couple of seasons, but steadily became a solid performer and was part of their League Cup winning team in 1993. Despite suffering a broken leg and other minor setbacks, he remained with the club until 2000. He joined Blackburn Rovers, where for 2 seasons at least he was a regular and won the League Cup once again. His final season, the 2002-2003 season, was blighted by injury, which culminated in his retirement at the end of the campaign. He moved into coaching following retirement and briefly managed IK Start back in his home country, but is now the sporting director at Danish club AGF. Before we carry on, we appreciate the love we've been receiving. If you like the video, if you're a fan of 90s football nostalgia and want weekly trips down memory lane, then we've got heaps of material to dish out, including retro goals, sticker nostalgia, and much more. So if that's something you love, then pop a like on the video, give us a subscribe and a share. Every little helps towards growing the channel, and we appreciate all of you for getting involved. But for now, I'm A.I Alan. Let's get back to today's video. In 1995, Manchester City completed the move for veteran German international Aiko Imel from Stuttgart. Imel was able to capitalize on an injury to regular City keeper Tony Coton as he became the #1 keeper in a struggling City team. The club were relegated on the final day of the season, but Imel was to remain with the club for a further season in what is now the Championship. He only made a further 4 appearances and was essentially City's 4th used keeper that season, behind the likes of Martin Margetson, Andy Dibble and Tommy Wright. Imel would retire at the end of the 96-97 season following an underwhelming couple of years at Main Road. He later worked as a goalkeeping coach for the likes of Fenerbahce and Austria Vienna, and had a spell as manager of a German lower league team. In 2008, he was declared bankrupt, and in a 2024 interview stated he was living off benefits in a small one-bedroom flat with only €2 to his name. Okay, so, literally, the only options we had were Peter Schmeichel, Eric Cantona, or Dennis Irwin. What I'd have given for this chap to have a sticker. Even with Irwin by being Irish, it's a bit of a tenuous link as a foreign player, but despite being comfortably one of the best fullbacks in Premier League history, he is also one of the most underrated players in the Ferguson era. The 95-96 seasons brought glory in both the Premier League and FA Cup for Irwin, and he went on to win the treble during the 98-99 season. He actually won a further 4 titles with United after this season, before leaving Old Trafford in 2002. He spent a couple of seasons with Wolves, where he was part of the promotion-winning team in 2003, before retiring at the end the following season. Since retirement, he has worked for Manchester United as presenter on MUTV, and also writes as a columnist for Irish newspaper Sunday World. Bolivian striker Haime Moreno rocked up at the Riverside in 1994 from Colombian side Independiente Santa Fe. He was predominantly a substitute over his 2 years, but was part of the team promoted to the Premier League in 1996. He would depart at the end of 95-96 season after making only 20 first-team appearances, scoring once. He joined MLS side DC United, where he became a club legend. Despite his underwhelming spell in the Northeast, he rejoined Middlesbrough on loan during the 1997-98 season, scoring a further goal in 5 appearances before going back to United States. He played 319 times for DC over 2 spells, scoring 111 goals, as well as a short spell with the now-defunct New York, New Jersey Metro Stars. He went on to manage their under-23 academy team, and in 2021 was inducted into the American National Soccer Hall of Fame. Big Shaka Hislop joined the Magpies in 1995 from Reading. Born in England, but an international player for Trinidad and Tobago, Kevin Keegan initially preferred him to Pavel Suneček during the first part of the 95-96 season, but following an injury he lost his place and struggled to retake it permanently thereafter. He did, however, play 58 times in the league over 3 seasons, but eventually departed in 1998 after Newcastle moved to sign Shay Given. He would move on to West Ham United, playing over 100 times for the Hammers. He lost his place to David James in 2001 until the England keeper tore his knee ligaments, leading to another spell back in the net. He went on to be a part of Harry Redknapp's Portsmouth team, who were promoted to the Premier League in 2003 before moving back to West Ham in 2005. He retired in 2007 after a spell with FC Dallas in Major League Soccer. He has since predominantly worked as a pundit and co-commentator for ESPN. In the summer of 1995, Nottingham Forest moved to sign Italian goalscorer Andrea Senzi after losing star striker Stan Collymore to Liverpool. Senzi had been prolific at spells back home, but his time at the City ground was an instant failure. Often described by Forest fans as one of the worst players to have played for the Reds, the Italian failed to score a goal in 12 league appearances. During the 96-97 season, he joined Venezia on loan before having his contract cancelled upon his return. He remained in Italy for the remainder of his career, but only managed another 5 goals in the remaining 4 years of his career before hanging up his boots in 2001. It's unsure what Senzi has done in retirement, but what we do know is he is religious and is connected to the Seventh-day Adventist Church. His son Christian is also a footballer, but has spent most of his career in the Italian lower leagues. Australian Ned Zelic arrived at Loftus Road in the summer of 1995 from Borussia Dortmund. The midfielder had chalked up over 70 Bundesliga appearances and had won the title the month before his £1.2 million move. Rangers thought they secured a great deal, But after a year in West London, which ended in relegation, Zelic managed 4 appearances following a season beset with injury. Zelic moved on to Eintracht Frankfurt before a spell in France with Auxerre. He later played for teams in Japan, Austria, the Netherlands, and back for spells in Germany and Australia. He retired in 2008 with Georgian club Dynamo Tbilisi. Since retirement, he has predominantly worked as a football scout in both Germany and Australia. Swedish international Klas Ingersson rocked up at Hillsborough from PSV Eindhoven in the summer of 1994. Initially signed as a long-term replacement for Colton Palmer, he struggled to hold down a place in the team and only played 18 times in the league. By November 1995, he had been sold to Italian side Bari. He remained in Italy until 2000, playing also for Bologna, returning once again for Lecce in 2001 after a brief stint with Marseille. After retiring, he became a lumberjack, although he did return for football as manager of Elfsborg. Ingersson had struggled with illness ever since a 2009 diagnosis with multiple myeloma, and despite fully recovering a year later, the illness would return. Sadly, on October 29, 2014, Ingersson passed away. Dutch centre-half Ken Moncau joined Southampton in 1992 from Chelsea. He became a stalwart for the Saints over the next 7 years. As dependable as he was popular, Moncau was involved in countless relegation battles but never once bit the bullet. In 1994, he scored a last-minute winner against Norwich to keep them in the league. He remained a Saint until the end of the 98-99 season, dropping down to play for Huddersfield Town. In 2002, he made a shock return to Chelsea at the age of 37. However, he failed to appear in anything other than a solitary reserve game. Since retiring, he has worked in the media for Chelsea TV, as well as running his own pancake house in the Dutch city of Delft. Romanian international Ile Dmytro joined Tottenham Hotspur in 1994 from Steaua Bucharest, following an impressive showing at World Cup '94. Despite glimpses of promise, his football career in England never really got going, and he would make only 18 appearances for Spurs by November 1995, which is where he was sold on to rivals West Ham United. His time at Upton Park was equally as unsuccessful, and after only 10 games, he was on the move again by joining Mexican side Club America. Dmytro somewhat surprisingly retired at the age of 29. In 2000, he was appointed as manager of Otelul Galate and managed a staggering 13 different teams in the next 10 years, most notably Greek clubs AEK Athens and PAOK, before another return to Steaua. In 2010, he announced he would not be considering any more coaching roles and is now a business owner, occasional TV pundit, and guest commentator. Danish international defender Mark Reaper arrived initially on loan from Brøndby in 1994 before completing a £1 million transfer the following summer. Reaper was ever present for the Hammers alongside the likes of Julian Dix and Steve Potts. In 1997, he joined Celtic, winning the Scottish Premiership during the 97-98 season. In the early stages of the following season, he suffered a toe injury that eventually led to an early retirement. Despite staying on the books until the end of the 1990-2000 campaign, Reaper had not played in over 18 months at the time of his retirement. He later had spells as assistant manager of 2 of his former teams, firstly for Celtic, before a spell with the GF Aarhus. He now works predominantly away from the sport as a business owner and runs a hotel. He is, however, now on the board of directors at a GF. Ole Hardson arrived in South London in 1994. The Norwegian winger hit the ground running at Wimbledon and became a fan's favourite, notching up 13 goals in 78 appearances over 3 seasons at Selhurst Park, in which he helped them reach the semi-final of both the FA Cup and League Cup in 1997. He moved on to Liverpool, where he played for 2 seasons before joining Tottenham Hotspur. He later had a further spell in England with Aston Villa before returning to Norwegian football. He retired in 2007 with Strømgodset. He has since worked several coaching jobs and was most recently employed as assistant manager at Norwegian side Mjøndalen. Thanks for watching. Please consider liking and subscribing for more like-minded content. Feel free to check out our other videos and stay tuned for weekly retro football nostalgia.